the word FOIL is very, very useful to help you multiply binomials, okay? So before I get into the book, I just want to explain it a little bit to you. There's two ways to multiply a binomial. Okay, you can multiply it using the vertical format that I'll show you in a minute, or you can multiply it using the FOIL format. I am a FOIL fan, but for those of you who don't enjoy FOIL, I'm going to show you the vertical way. Okay, unlike numeric stacked multiplication, you start on the left. Okay, and you move to the right as you go to the next piece. Okay, contrasted from numbers, you start on the left and move to the right. Numbers, you start on the right and move to the left. So, we're going to start here, x times x, which is what? Right below. Okay, x times -2, -2x. Okay, so I have now multiplied x minus 2 by x, right? All right. Now, that means there is nothing else that is going to fall below the squared, because no other combination in multiplication is going to result in an x squared. So I put a placeholder there, just like you would in numeric arithmetic, numeric multiplication. My next step is to multiply x minus 2 by 4. X minus 2 is a positive 4x. Now I move over here. -2 times 4 is a -8. Okay, so this line is the result of the top number times 4, and the above line is the result of the top factor by x. Okay? To find out the total, you have to add them all together. So x squared times nothing is x squared, right? Add. 4x plus -2x is a positive 2x. -8 plus 0 is -8. Okay? The other way of doing this is using the mnemonic device FOIL. First, outside, inside, last. That ensures that you multiply every piece by every piece. Okay? What I have seen students give me as a result of this is x squared minus 8. X times x is x squared. -2 times 4 is -8. That's wrong. They didn't multiply this times this. They didn't multiply this times this. For some reason, the O and the I gets neglected. Okay, the poor vowels. All right, so this is absolutely wrong. If you do not follow the steps that you're taught, you'll get it wrong every time. So let's do F. The items that sit in the first position give us an x squared, right? The items that sit in the outside position give us a positive 4x, okay? And I moved it over because I know I can't add that to that. The items that sit in the inside position give us a -2x, and that can be added to that x because they're the same thing. Okay? The items that sit in the last position, the 2 and the 4, produce a -8. So you end up with the same sum. Okay? I'm a FOIL girl, you'll never see me do that, unless it's 3 by 2 or something bigger than that. Okay? And that, my friends, is the example in example 1. They give us their version of this. They do write the product, 2x plus 5 times 3x minus 4. First, they did it stacked, and you could see that under solution 1. Okay, does everybody see that under solution 1? The other way they taught us is the FOIL method, and that's in solution 2. Okay? Over and over. That's what you're doing today. Okay? It is critical that you practice this and do it right. Absolutely critical. I want to teach you a little bit more at the top of the page 201. They give us some definitions. Okay, when you have something x squared plus, or I guess it could be minus, x, some x, maybe 1x, 2x, 3x, plus, or it could be minus, c, some other number. What you have is something called a quadratic polynomial. Let me give you a couple examples. 2x squared minus 3x plus 1. Okay? The 2 signifies the value plugged in for A, the negative 3 is the B, and the 1 is the C. Another example might be 4x squared plus x minus 1. Okay? Notice you have a item squared. It could be B, it could be Z, it doesn't matter what variable they're squaring. You also have a item to the first power, okay, and they call that linear because it's to the first power. And then we have, lastly, a number. That's called a constant, okay? If you have squared plus or minus linear plus or minus constant, you have a quadratic polynomial. This is going to be the vein of your existence from now until graduation in algebra, okay? This is a quadratic polynomial. The term squared is what we do when we find the area of a square, right? So if I wanted to find the area of a square and I said this is 2 feet, this is 2 feet, well, you would say the area of the square that you're sketching in the sky is 4 feet squared, right? That's squared. That's why it's called the squared term, okay? Another word they use, that's what I always call it, but is the quadratic term. Quadratic meaning quad, 4, squared. Are you guys kind of feeling me here? Okay? If I told you to find the distance from A to B, and I told you, if I said, how long is line AB, and I labeled it 2 feet, you would say, well, Mrs. Myers, AB is 2 feet. It's not 2 feet squared, it's 2 feet because it is a straight line, it's a flat. It's not two-dimensional like the shape. It's a line, which is why it's called a linear term. It's to the first power. So it is not squared, it's linear. Okay? And lastly, a constant. It's a number. 1 is always 1. All right? There's never going to be an argument as to what 1 is. All right? You will absolutely need to know what these terms mean because they're going to pop up over and over for the rest of your algebraic life. And you're not going to say to me, I don't know what quadratic means, I don't know what linear means, because I'm going to say, you were taught that already. So it's your responsibility to learn what that means. All right, let's do a couple of examples from the oral, okay? And then I'll let you guys practice. I want to do 16, 17, and 18 with you, okay? Here's 16. This is from the oral, okay? 3y minus 1 multiplied by y plus 3. And the question says, for each product, so we're going to multiply it first, they want us to identify which one's the quadratic, which two terms ended up combining to become the linear, and what was the constant that gave us that product. Okay, so here's what we're doing. Okay, they're not going to make you do that later, but 3y times y, that's the first term, is 3y squared, right? That's f. Outside is a positive 9y. Would you agree? Inside is what? Negative y. Last is what? negative 3. Notice, right now I have 4 items, right? This is your quadratic. These 2 are your linear that are going to get added together. And this is your constant, okay? Which, once we add those linear terms together, I have a final answer that looks like that, okay? So if the oral instructions were what you saw in the written, this would be what I would expect to see. The multiplied out thing, quadratic, linear, linear, constant, and then you combine your linears, okay? Oftentimes you might do this in your head, but for these few we're not. We're just making sure we know what is what. 17. 3r plus 1, r minus 2. Okay. F. What's the product of F, people? Good. What's the product of O, class? Anybody know other than Kenzie? 6R. What kind of 6R? Good job. What's the product of I? 1. What kind of 1R? Positive. What's the product of L? Negative 2. What is my quadratic term, class? What are my linear terms? Good. Those are going to get combined because they're the same thing. Which leaves my lonely 2 as my constant. End result. Okay, how's that? You guys feeling okay about this? Okay, 18 is going to look a little different. That's why I wanted to do it. All you've done up to this point is you've had some kind of R plus or minus some kind of number. This time they did it backwards. Does it matter? Absolutely not. It does not make a lick of a difference. What's the product of F here, people? 5. 1 times 5. What's the product of O? Negative X. What's the product of I? Bravo, my friends. And what's the product of L? Okay. Where's the quadratic? At the very end. It doesn't matter where it sits. It's still a quadratic. If I wanted to rearrange it, which I probably will because it bugs me, I can. But it doesn't matter. Negative X and a negative 25, those are my linear. And this, my constant, okay? So I have to rearrange it because that's how my mind works. I always like to see my quadratic term in the first position. If you don't do that, that's okay, but I will warn you that when you check odds in the back of the book, that's how you'll see it. You'll usually see it rearranged. Maybe not as much right now, but the further along you get, the more you're going to assume that you're doing it the normal way. All right? Second piece is your linears. 1 and 25. Last piece is your constant, okay? And that, my friends, is how you do that, okay? Obviously today I did only assign evens, so that means I should see a little bit of work.